Viewer discretion is advised.
Herbert Richard Baumeister was an American businessman and suspected serial killer. A resident of the Indianapolis suburb of Westfield, Indiana, Baumeister came under investigation for murdering over a dozen men in the early 1990s, most of whom were last seen at gay bars. Police found the remains of 11 men, 8 identified, on Baumeister's property. Baumeister died by suicide after a warrant was issued for his arrest. He was later linked to a series of murders of at least 11 men along Interstate 70, which occurred in the early 1980s to the early 1990s. Herb Baumeister was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, on April 7, 1947. The oldest of 4 children born to anesthesiologist Dr. Herbert Eugene Baumeister and Elizabeth Baumeister, née Schmidt. Baumeister's childhood was reportedly normal, but he began exhibiting antisocial behavior by the onset of adolescence. Friends later recalled his urophilia and how he used to ponder what it would be like to taste human urine. He also enjoyed urinating on teachers' desks and playing with dead animals. In his teens, Baumeister's behavior caused his father to have him submit to mental examinations. He was subsequently diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and antisocial personality disorder, but did not receive further psychiatric treatment. In 1965, Baumeister attended Indiana University for a semester before dropping out, but returned in 1967. In 1972, he attended a semester at Butler University. As an adult, Baumeister drifted through a series of jobs, marked by a strong work ethic but also by increasingly bizarre behavior. Baumeister married Juliana "Julie" Seiter in November 1971, a union that produced 3 children. Seiter later said they had been sexually intimate only 6 times in over 25 years of marriage and never saw her husband nude. 6 months after his marriage, Baumeister was committed to a psychiatric hospital by his father for 2 months. His wife said he was hurting and needed help. Baumeister eventually founded the successful 2-store Save-A-Lot thrift store chain in Indianapolis in 1988. The I-70 Strangler is the nickname of an unidentified American serial killer who killed at least 11 young boys and adult men in Indiana and Ohio between June 1980 and October 1991, dumping their bodies near Interstate 70. The killer met his victims in popular gay bars and other similar establishments within a 4-block radius in Indianapolis. All of the victims were later found naked or partially clothed near Interstate 70, often dumped in rivers, streams, and ditches in the rural countryside. Each had been strangled to death. Though officially unsolved, Baumeister was named the prime suspect in the case in April 1999 by law enforcement. According to investigators, bodies related to the I-70 Strangler case stopped being found in 1991 after Baumeister bought the Fox Hollow Farm, which he would use as a burial site for his subsequent victims. The body of 15-year-old Michael Sean Petrie was discovered naked in rural Hamilton County, Indiana on June 16, 1980. He was a male prostitute who spent most of his time around Indianapolis's gay bars. He was reported missing on June 7th, but 3 days later, he was observed in different parts of the city riding along in a stranger's car. The cause of death was established as strangulation. No traces of drugs or alcohol were found in his blood. The topless corpse of Maurice Allen Taylor, 22, was found on July 21, 1982, in the Weasel Creek in rural Hamilton County, Indiana. While his cause of death was not sufficiently established, law enforcement suspected that he had been strangled. Taylor was a vagrant who lived in the boiler room of an apartment complex in Indianapolis, and due to his financial difficulties, he offered sexual services around the gay bars. Delvoyd Lee Baker, 14, was found semi-nude near a river in Hamilton County, Indiana, on October 3, 1982. While investigating his death, authorities located witnesses who stated that Baker was last seen on the evening of October 2nd in downtown Indianapolis, boarding a blue van driven by a young white man with a bushy mustache. The boy's parents told police that he had been riding his bike to the city center on the night of his disappearance, from where he called home at 10:30 p.m. to inform them that he was going to be late because he wanted to go to the cinema. It was later established that Baker had been cruising the Indianapolis gay bars for the last 3 months and had been a victim of child sexual abuse. Michael Andrew Riley, 22, disappeared on May 28, 1983, after visiting the Vogue Theater, a nightclub in Indianapolis. He was last seen with an unidentified man, with whom he later left. In February 1998, an Indianapolis resident contacted police and claimed that Baumeister was the man last seen leaving the Vogue Theater with Riley. Riley's nude body was later found in a ditch in Hancock County, southeast of Greenfield, on June 5th. The autopsy determined that he had been strangled, with the perpetrator likely using a towel. Eric Allen Rutger, 17, vanished on May 7, 1985, with his shirtless body found a few days later near a stream in rural Preble County, Ohio, east of Lewisburg. According to his parents, Rutger was planning to attend interviews for a summer job on the day of his disappearance, but did not attend any of them. His friends and relatives denied that he was gay, but later research indicated that Rutger had many acquaintances who were drug addicts or drug traffickers. Witnesses claimed that they had seen Eric at a bus stop in the early morning of March 7th, but instead of waiting for the bus, he accepted a ride from a passing car. When found, he had an apparent burn mark on his left shoulder and had been strangled with a rope. The body of 29-year-old Michael Allen Glenn, clad only in his underwear, was found in a ditch near Eaton, Ohio on August 15, 1986. He lived separately from his parents in a trailer park located on the outskirts of Indianapolis and worked as a handyman. The exact date of his disappearance was not established. Strangulation marks, possibly from a rope, were found on his neck. He was identified 3 years after his discovery with the help of fingerprinting. James Boyd Robbins Jr., 21, went missing on October 15, 1987, at around 10 p.m., shortly after leaving his mother's home in Indianapolis and walking to the southern part of the city. 2 days later, on October 17th, his naked corpse bearing strangulation marks was found in a ditch in rural Shelby County, near Interstate 70, south of Gwynville. While investigating his murder, police located 2 witnesses who gave conflicting information. One claimed that they had seen a red Jeep Wrangler Renegade near the crime scene, while another said that the car was a Chevrolet Blazer. The corpse of 26-year-old Stephen Lynn Elliott, clad in his underwear, was found on August 12, 1989, in rural Preble County, Ohio, near Interstate 70. He had been strangled, presumably with a rope. Elliott's father told police that when his son came out as gay in 1979, he then left the family household and became involved in prostitution, developing an alcohol addiction. Clay Russell Boatman, 32, a licensed practical nurse, disappeared on August 14, 1990, after leaving his Richmond, Indiana apartment to visit Our Place, a local gay bar. His body, showing signs of strangulation, was found in a ditch by a group of children near Eaton, Ohio. When interviewed, Boatman's family denied that he was homosexual. Thomas Ray Clevenger Jr., 18, vanished without a trace on September 6, 1990, and his semi-nude corpse was later found at an abandoned railroad track near Greenville, Ohio. Clevenger grew up in a poor neighborhood of Indianapolis, and shortly before his death, he engaged in prostitution near gay bars to earn money, a fact denied by his mother and sister. The body of 42-year-old Otto Gary Becker was found in a ditch next to a gravel road in rural Henry County, Indiana on August 6, 1991. While investigating his murder, police identified several witnesses who claimed to have seen Becker in a car with another male driving north on Interstate 70 near Indianapolis. The witnesses were taken to the police station and shown photographs of various criminals convicted of kidnapping and murder charges in the state, but none of them was matched to the alleged abductor. In May 1988, the Baumeisters purchased and moved to Fox Hollow Farm, an 18-acre property built in 1978 off 156th Street and the Monon Trail in Westfield, Indiana. In 1994, Baumeister's son had been playing in the family's wooded backyard when he found a complete, partially buried human skeleton. Baumeister explained to his family that it had been one of his father's dissecting skeletons. He then had it stored in their garage and buried it in the garden again after he had cleaned out the garage. On June 24, 1996, investigators recovered human bone fragments of at least 11 people buried in the woods at Fox Hollow. A new search on December 4, 2022, found one bone and identified 20 additional locations that might have more remains buried under the ground. Only 8 people have been identified since the initial discovery. The additional 3 remains are still unidentified, although they are all believed to be male and to have been victims of homicide. Hamilton County Coroner's Office have appealed to the public requesting anyone with missing family members from the mid-1980s to mid-1990s in the Indianapolis area to complete a DNA test in an effort to help identify the victims' remains. As of January 2024, forensic experts continue working in an effort to identify nearly 10,000 portions of human remains recovered from an unknown number of victims at Fox Hollow Farm. John Lee Johnny Byer, 20, went missing on May 28, 1993. Jeffrey Allen Jeff Jones, 31, went missing on July 6, 1993. Richard Douglas Hamilton Jr., 20, went missing on July 31, 1993. Alan Lee Livingston, 27, also went missing on August 6, 1993. His remains were recovered in the initial search of the farm in 1996, but remained unidentified until October 2023. Stephen Sperlin Hale, 28, went missing on April 1, 1994. Alan Wayne Broussard, 28, went missing on June 6, 1994. Roger Allen Goodlett, 33, went missing on July 22, 1994. Michael Frederick Kiernan, 45, last seen on March 31, 1995. Manuel Resendez, 34, last seen at a gay bar in downtown Indianapolis on August 6, 1993. In January 2024, Hamilton County Coroner announced the identification of remains that were recovered in 1996 from Fox Hollow Farm. Human remains recovered from the property matched a family reference sample that was submitted in early 2023, and this led to the identification. Additional authorities have publicly and posthumously linked the unsolved disappearance of Jerry Williams Comer, 34, to Baumeister. Williams Comer was last seen in Indianapolis on August 8, 1995. After his disappearance, his vehicle was found at Castleton Square Mall. As a young gay man, Williams Comer fit the profile of Baumeister's victims, despite the fact that his remains were never recovered from Baumeister's residence. By the early 1990s, investigators with the Marion County Sheriff's Department and the Indianapolis Police Department began investigating the disappearances of gay men of similar age, height, and weight in the Indianapolis area. In 1994, they were contacted by a man named Tony Harris, claiming that a gay bar patron calling himself Brian Smart had likely killed a friend of his, Roger Goodlett, based on his suspicious interest in Goodlett's missing persons case, and had attempted to kill him with a pool hose during an erotic asphyxiation session in his mansion after he had met him at the 501 Club, a local Indianapolis gay bar. Harris eventually saw this man again in August 1995, following his car and noting his license plate number. Police identified Brian Smart as Herb Baumeister. Investigators approached Baumeister, told him he was a suspect in the disappearances, and asked to search his house. Both Baumeister and his wife, Julie, refused to allow a search of their property. By June 1996, however, Julie had become sufficiently frightened by her husband's erratic behavior that, after filing for divorce, she consented to a search. The search of the estate was conducted while Baumeister was on vacation. It turned up the remains of 11 men, 8 of whom were identified. With a warrant out for his arrest, Baumeister fled to Ontario, where he committed suicide at Pinery Provincial Park on Lake Huron by shooting himself in the head with a .357 Magnum handgun. Baumeister left a 3-page suicide note written on yellow notepaper. He regretted messing up the park, he wrote, and felt badly about his broken marriage and failing business, but he did not mention the remains of his victims or admit to any crime. He described items on his trip, including his intention to kill himself in a different place, but seeing children there had changed his mind. His final meal was a peanut butter sandwich,